Hello, everyone. This is Old School with WhatTheBuck.net, coming with a conflicted view here. I've got my Rays visor on and my USF shirt on, trying to support everything local we can, and God knows the Rays could use our support right now with the way things have started with the Rangers. But this week we're talking about the Bucs and the Bengals. The Bucs go up to Cincinnati, a team that we've had some relative success over. A couple of other little historical things coming into this game that are useful. We've won 3 straight coming off the bye. We've won 3 straight times in Cincy. And the last time they beat us, actually, we had a quarterback by the name of Vinny Testaverde that many of you fans probably don't even remember. But none of that actually matters when it comes to this particular game. The Bengals are coming off of a loss to the Cleveland Browns, who, when we beat, were kind of chided as being a crappy team. And now people are saying, well, maybe they're not so crappy. Cincinnati has underperformed this year after having a solid year last year and having plenty of talent in the skill positions. And when you look at the skill positions, that's where Buccaneers cynics and Buccaneer fans alike are quite concerned, given the way Charlie Batch was able to torch our defense in our last outing. The thought of Carson Palmer with Terrell Owens and Chad Ochocinco and a guy who a lot of people for some reason don't know, who's Jermaine Grisham, the tight end up in Cincinnati, as well as Cedric Benson, who, despite averaging a yard per carry below where he was last year, is still a very bruising and punishing back who can make you pay if you let him get past the first level. This is an offense that's very potent. Now, that offensive line up there has apparently not been getting the job done. I went back and watched some of the Cincinnati game. They ran a lot of sort of unbalanced lines and things like that, trying to get Benson some looks, and it just didn't happen, regardless of what they were trying to do. But when you look at the numbers on the line, especially when you go with the deeper numbers, like the ones from Pro Football Focus, they're not giving up a lot of QB pressures. And one of the things I want to talk about when we're talking about keys to the game this week for the Bucs in Cincinnati, it's going to be about defense. When you look at what we did with the Steelers, the plan going into that was not to blitz a lot, was to make Charlie Batch beat us, was to put our defensive backs, whether they're safeties or corners, in position to make plays and get turnovers. The funny thing is that's exactly what happened. Our guys were in position to make those plays, and they just didn't make them. Whether it's because they didn't turn around when the ball was coming in the case of Cody Grimm on the first touchdown pass, whether they deflected it off their hands into the hands of the receiver in the end zone in the case of Aqib Talib. Now, I know Raheem took a lot of pressure from me and from others, and it'll be probably a tempting thing to go back to what Raheem likes to do, which is blitz quite a bit. But when you look at the data on Carson Palmer, and this is where we get into the data around that offensive line, Carson Palmer is a blitz eater, right? Against the Browns, he actually had a decent QB rating. He had 350-something yards, I think, with 220 going to Terrell Owens. And I think he posted over 100 QB rating. But the game before that against the Panthers, he put up a sterling 53 on the QB rating. But when you look at the performance versus pressure, like I said, via Pro Football Focus, against no pressure, Carson Palmer, on the year thus far anyway, is an 89.8 QB rating. Against blitz pressure, he's a 97.3. And if you go back and watch that Cleveland Browns game, he recognizes the blitz is quick, and he has no problem finding his hot receiver and delivering the ball. He'll take the checkdowns. He'll take what they give you. And Raheem said that in the articles this week. This is an offense that, while they like to go vertical, will take what you give them. Now, to contrast that, Josh Freeman, against no pressure, is putting up 100 even QB rating, and against a blitz is an 80.8. Now, I think it's going to be interesting. I know how they characterize a blitz. They're sending more players, but pressure-wise, line to line, the only weak spot that I saw in the Bengals offensive line was Nate Livings, who's given up 10 QB pressures, which stands out. And when I look at the stats, I'm not overly statistically driven, but I do look at the stats to see if I see trends or if I see things that pop out. And that one kind of screamed out at me. They've only given up 36 total QB pressures this year. Total. Our Bucs offensive line has given up 58, and we have 3 players over 10. Donald Penn, Davin Joseph, and Jeremy Trueblood. That is no bueno at all. So going into the game, there's a couple of things lineup-wise that will be interesting to see play out. There's been a lot of news this week about Cadillac Williams' role reducing, that he may need a rest, and maybe that's part of the reason why our running game hasn't been where it needed to be. That certainly seemed to get a little bit of validity when LeGarrette Blount came in and was able to run effectively, and we do expect to see LeGarrette Blount and or Kareem Huggins coming off of a groin injury get some of those carries. The Bucs like to target between 30 and 32 carries per game. And historically, they've wanted to get Caddy up over 20. I believe over 22. We're undefeated. I think that's the number. If it's not, I apologize. It's somewhere around there. But I think what you're going to see is a lot more of a mix. And I'm not sure whether Huggins is going to be a full go with the groin, but I do think you're going to see a lot more LeGarrette Blount. Now, around other changes in the lineup, there's a discussion about left defensive end with Kyle Moore not performing on a regular basis, also being dinged up. We look to see Tim Crowder and or Michael Bennett get a little bit more chance to play get a little more action on that defensive line, which I know Steve White in his blog, passingонthegame.blogspot.com, has been calling for quite some time. The Bucs defense is going to have to be able to generate some pass rush without running those blitzes, without going into their 3-3-5 set. They're going to have to try and get some generated pass pressure on Carson. Regardless of how he eats up blitzes, knowing that and knowing what his tendencies are, and they are very robotic, and you'd expect that. We've got to do some things against that, whether that's rolling coverage or feinting. We've got to get him looks that he's not expecting, and when he goes to make that hot read, there's someone in the way. And Ocho Cinco came out this way and heaped a lot of praise on Rondé Barber for being a student of the game, and I think everyone who follows the Bucs knows that that's the case. That's what's kept him around. That's what's given him the longevity. Physically, he's not where he used to be, but he's still able to get the job done. Cagey guys like that can cause problems for quarterbacks if they show tendencies on tape, and it looks to me, in the very small amount of film that I watched on Carson Palmer, that he's showing some tendencies. I'd like to see Rondé Barber have a pretty good week this week, despite going against two very solid receivers in Terrell Owens and Chad Ochocinco. The other thing that was coming out of camp, and I'm not sure whether it's going to have any bearing this week, was Eric Lorg, defensive end, was tried out at tight end and fullback. The blocking by our tight ends has been abysmal. The worst blocking, I believe, actually has been by Kellen Winslow, but that's kind of what you expect. He's a pass-catching tight end. Same thing with Jeremy Stevens, not a good blocking tight end. John Gilmore has been blocking, but not as well as he has in the past. If you're going to go to that extra, essentially, blocker with that tight end, they better damn well be able to block, and we haven't been able to get that done. So either you need your guys who are carrying the tight end title to learn how to do it, or you need to put someone in there who knows how to do it. I don't understand the check with fullback. I know Cincinnati did that a couple years ago with Ronnie Gent, who was a tight end. They tried to move to fullback. We've got Presley, who I think is fine as a blocking fullback. This may be a harbinger of Ernest Graham getting some more carries. I don't know. We say that every week. It looks like, hey, maybe Ernest will get some chances for some carries this week, and it doesn't happen. So I'm not sure if that's actually going to play out. The other discussion that's been probably hot and heavy over the bye week is because of the situation at safety, because of the fact that the Bucs did not go out there and get a free agent, and because Cody Grimm had a little bit of a rough week, even though Raheem says he graded out well with the exception of a couple of big plays, there's a chance of Rondé Barber potentially extending his career by moving from cornerback to safety. I have heard nothing out of our friends at Pewter Report or anyone that they've seen that happen. I think that he's certainly intellectually capable and physically capable, so we'll see if that move occurs. As far as keys to the game this week, we've got to somehow find a running game. This offensive line, led by Jeff Fain, has got to find an identity. We've said that every week, but by God, it is still true. Whether it's Huggins or Blunt or Caddy, I don't really care, or Ernest, someone's got to be able to run the ball whose name isn't Josh Freeman. We got to limit turnovers. I believe the Bengals have 9. I don't know if they're a +9, but they've generated 9 turnovers. Pac-Man Jones is having a hell of a season. Their linebackers are very active. We cannot fall into a situation like we were in Pittsburgh where we're coming from behind. Even though Josh has shown the ability to do that in his young career, that's not where we want to be. It sounds like a truism or tautology, and it kind of is. But the fact of the matter is we need to be on top of that turnover battle. We need to get that momentum going. We need to refine our swagger, for lack of a better, less trite term, with this young team so they feel confident again. And then we've got to try and do the best we can to control the dynamic duo of Chad Johnson, Chad Ochocinco, no offense intended, Ocho, and Terrell Owens. So I do think the team is capable of doing all of these things. I'm encouraged to see what the running game has in store. I'd like to see what the coaching staff's been able to do in a bye week, because I remember hearing a stat that in the first 30 minutes, in the first half, we're the number 30 ranked defense in the league, and I didn't verify this, so I apologize. But in the second half, we're number 7 overall. The staff has made good course corrections. So I'm intrigued to find out if they can take that same mentality and apply it to preparation during a bye week, and hopefully the last 3 that we've won coming off of byes are a harbinger of those sort of things to come. So thanks for listening to this. Hopefully you enjoyed it. Hopefully you found it insightful. Rate it up. Let me know what you think, and we'll be back with a post-game video after the game.